Howdy gamers. Quick aside, trying to be more consistent with uploads. I have a vacation coming up in about a week and a half. I'm going to bring my mic and recording stuff with me, and I am going to just record so much, so much. I'm going to try to get out at least like 10 chapters while I'm out. Um, just so I can get ahead and have some like relative consistency with my uploading. That's what we're working on this year is consistency. Um, that being said, not much is changing. If you guys like the face cam, I'll keep it. If not, I'll take it away. It doesn't make like too much of a difference to me. The only thing with recording that is really making a difference is the music that's playing at the same time, because I am live recording the music. I'm not like adding it afterwards. I'm trying to do as little editing as possible, you feel me? So with that, I have to do everything in one take no matter what. Um so that gets a little rough. Um, but yeah, that's it. Uh, hot beverage is back, black tea once again, and yeah. If you guys want anything, let me know. Um, I may start recording a second thing alongside romance if I can keep the uploads relatively consistent. We'll see. We'll see. That's where we're at. If we don't have a want for a second book, maybe romance gets sped up to 2 chapters a week, maybe three. So we'll see. We'll see. That's where we're at. Thanks for sticking around. Appreciate you. Oh, and with ads, um, mid-roll feels kind of what's the word? Greedy. Mid-roll ads feel greedy, so I'm considering only doing beginning and ending. Somebody commented that another channel does mid-roll ads like right at chapter ends slash chapter beginnings. So maybe that's better, but I'm not exactly sure how I feel yet. So that's where we're at. Thanks, whoever's been watching the ads. I've made about $40 so far since monetization. And that's been like 10 days, I think. Maybe a little less, maybe more like 9 or 8. But yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. All right, let's get into it. Three Kingdoms, Chapter 6. Burning the capital, Dong Zhuo commits an atrocity. Hiding the imperial hereditary seal, Sun Jian breaks faith. Zhang Fei rode hard up to the pass, but the defenders sent down stones and arrows like rain so that he could not enter, and he returned. The 8 lords all joined in felicitations to the 3 brothers for their services, and the story of victory was sent to Yuan Shao, who ordered Sun Jian to make an immediate advance. Thereupon, Sun Jian, with 2 trusty generals, Cheng Pu and Huang Gai, went over to the camp of Yuan Shu. Tracing figures on the ground with his staff, Sun Jian said, Dong Zhuo and I had no personal quarrel. Yet now I have thrown myself into battle regardless of consequences, exposed my person to the risk of wounds, and fought bloody battles to their bitter end. And why? That I might be the means of ridding my country of a rebel, and for the private advantage of your family. Yet you, heeding the slanderous tongue of a certain counselor, formerly withheld the supplies absolutely necessary to me, and so I suffered defeat. How can you explain, General? Yuan Shu, confused and frightened, had no word to reply. He ordered the death of the slanderer to placate Sun Jian. Then suddenly, they told Sun Jian, "Some officer has come riding down from the pass to see you, General. He is in the camp." Sun Jian therefore took his leave and returned to his own camp, where he found the visitor was Li Jue, one of the much-trusted commanders of Dongzhuo. "Wherefore come you?" said Sun Jian. Li Jue replied, "You are the one person for whom my master has respect and admiration, and he sends me to arrange a matrimonial alliance between the two families. He wishes that his daughter may become the wife of your son." "What? Dongzhuo, that rebel and renegade, that subverter of the throne. I wish I could destroy his 9 generations as a thank offering to the Empire. Think you I would be willing to have an alliance with such a family? I will not slay you as I ought, but go, and go quickly. Yield the pass, and I may spare your lives. If you delay, I will grind your bones to powder and make mincemeat of your flesh." Li Jue threw his arms over his head and ran out. He returned to his master and told him what a rude reception he had met with. Dongzhuo asked his advisor, Li Ru, how to reply to this. Li Ru said, "Lu Bu's late defeat had somewhat blunted the edge of our army's desire for battle. It would be well to return to the capital and remove the emperor to Chang'an, as the street children had been lately singing. A Han on the west, a Han on the east, the deer will be safe in Chang'an." Li Ru continued, "If you think out this couplet, it applies to the present juncture. Half the first line refers to the founder of the dynasty, Liu Bang, the supreme ancestor, who became ruler in the western city of Chang'an, which was the capital during 12 reigns. The other half corresponds to Liu Shu, the latter Han founder who ruled from Luoyang, the eastern capital during 12 latter reigns. The revolution of the heavens brings us back to this starting moment. Thus, if you remove to Chang'an, there will be no need for anxiety." Dongzhuo was exceedingly pleased and said, "Had you not spoken thus, I should not have understood." Then, taking Lu Bu with him, Dongzhuo started at once for capital Luoyang. Here he called all the officials to a great council in the palace and addressed them. "After 2 centuries of rule here, the royal fortune has been exhausted, and I perceive that the aura of rule has migrated to Chang'an, whither I now desire to move the court. All you would better pack up for the journey." Yang Biao, Minister of the Interior, said, "I pray you reflect. Within that city all is destruction. There is no reason to renounce the ancestral temples and abandon the imperial tombs here. I fear the people will be alarmed. It is easy to alarm them, but difficult to pacify them." "Do you oppose the state plans?" said Dongzhuo angrily. Another official, Grand Commander Huang Wan, supported his colleague. "In the era of recommencement, Feng Chong of the Red Eyebrows rebels burned Chang'an to the ground and reduced the place to broken tiles. The inhabitants scattered all but a few. It is wrong to abandon these palaces here for a wasteland. Dong Zhuo replied, The east of the pass is full of sedition, and all the empire is in rebellion. The city of Chang'an is protected by the Yaohan Mountains and the Henghu Pass. Moreover, it is near Longyou, whence can be easily brought timber, stone, brick, and building materials. In a month or so, the palaces can be erected. So an end to your wild words. Yet, Minister of Works Zun Shuang raised another protest against disturbing the people, but Dong Zhuo overbore him also. How can I stop to consider a few common people when my scheme affects the empire? Said Dong Zhuo. That day, the three objectors, Yang Biao, Huang Wan, and Zun Shuang, were removed from their offices and reduced to the rank of commoners. As Dong Zhuo went out to get into his coach, he met two other officers who made obeisance. They were the Secretary General, Zhao Bi, and the commander of the city gate, Wu Kuang. Dong Zhuo stopped and asked them what they wanted. Said Zhou Bi, We venture to try to dissuade you from moving the capital to Chang'an. Dong Zhuo replied, They used to say you two were supporters of Yuan Shao. Now he has already turned traitor, and you are of the same party. And without more ado, he bade his guards take both outside the city and put them to death. The command to remove to the new capital immediately was issued. Speaking to Dong Zhuo, Li Ru pointed out, We are short of money and food, and the rich people of Luoyang could be easily plundered. This is a good occasion to link them to the rebels and to confiscate their properties. Dong Zhuo sent 5,000 troops out to plunder and slay. They captured many thousand wealthy householders and, having stuck flags on their heads saying they were traitors and rebels, drove them out of the city and put them to death. Their properties were all seized. The task of driving forth the inhabitants, some millions, was given to two of Dong Zhuo's commanders, Li Jue and Guo Si. The people were sent off in bands, each band between two parties of soldiers, who drove them forward Chang'an. Enormous numbers fell by the roadside and died in the ditches, and the escort plundered the fugitives and defiled the women. A wail of sorrow arose to the very sky. Dong Zhuo's final orders as he left capital Luoyang were to burn the whole city. Houses, palaces, temples, and everything was devoured by the flames. The capital became but a patch of scorched earth. Dong Zhuo sent Lu Bu to desecrate the tombs of the emperors and their consorts for the jewels therein, and the common soldiers took the occasion to dig up the graves of officers and plunder the cemeteries of the wealthy. The spoil of the city, gold and silver, pearls and silks, and beautiful ornaments filled many carts. With these and the persons of the emperor and his household, Dong Zhuo moved off to the new capital in the first year of inauguration of tranquility, AD 190. Luoyang thus abandoned. The general of Dongzhuo at River Sea Pass, Zhao Xin, evacuated that post of vantage, which Sun Jian at once occupied. Liu Bei and his brothers took Tiger Trap Pass, and the Confederate lords advanced. Sun Jian hastened to the late capital, which was still in flames. When he arrived, dense smoke hung all over it and spread for miles around. No living thing, not a fowl or a dog or a human being, remained. Sun Jian told off his soldiers to extinguish the fires and set out camping places for the Confederate lords. Cao Cao went to see Yuan Shao and said, "Dongzhuo has gone west. We ought to follow and attack his rear without loss of time. Why do you remain inactive?" "All our colleagues are worn out, and there's nothing to be gained by attack," said Yuan Shao. Cao Cao said, "This moment was most propitious in the utter confusion that reigned. Palaces burned, the emperor abducted, the whole world upset, and no one knowing whither to turn. The villain will soon be ended, and a single blow could exterminate Dongzhuo. Why not pursue?" But all the Confederate lords seemed of one mind, and that mind was to postpone action, so they did nothing. "Those unworthy ones cannot discuss worthy thing," cried Cao Cao. Then he and his 6 generals, Zhao Dun, Zhao Yuan, Cao Ren, Cao Hong, Li Jian, and Yue Jin, and 10,000 troops started in pursuit. The road to the new capital led through Yingyang. When Dongzhuo reached it, Governor Zhu Rong went to welcome the cavalcade. Li Ru said, "As there is some danger of pursuit, it would be well to order the governor of this place to lay an ambush outside the city. He is to let the pursuers pass and be ready to cut off their retreat when our army beats them off. That will teach any others not to follow." Then Dongzhuo ordered Lu Bu to command the rear guard. Very soon they saw Cao Cao coming up, and Lu Bu laughed at his colleague's foresight. He set out his troops in fighting order. Cao Cao rode forward, crying, "Rebels! Abductors! Drovers of the people! Where are you going?" Lu Bu replied, "Treacherous simpleton! What mad words are these?" Then from Cao Cao army rode forth Zhao Hundun, with his spear set, and Lu Bu and Zhao Hodun engaged. The combat had hardly begun when Li Ru with a cohort came in from the left. Cao Cao bade Zhao Yuan meet his onslaught. However, on the other side appeared Guo Si and his company. Cao Cao sent Cao Ren against Guo Si. The onrush on 3 sides was too much to withstand, and Lu Bu's army was overwhelming, so Zhao Hodun had to retire to the main line. Thereupon Lu Bu's armored troops attacked and completed the defeat. The beaten army of Cao Cao turned toward Yingyang. They got as far as the foot of a hill in the evening about the 2nd watch, and the moon made it as light as day. Here they halted to reform. Just as they were burying the boilers to prepare a meal, there arose a great noise of shouting on all sides, and out came the troops of Governor Zhu Rong from the ambush, fresh to attack. Cao Cao, thrown into a flurry, mounted and fled. He ran right in the way of the waiting Zhu Rong. Then he dashed off in another direction, but Zhu Rong shot an arrow after him, which struck him in the shoulder. The arrow still in the wound, Cao Cao fled for his life. As he went over the hill, 2 soldiers lying in wait among the grass suddenly dashed out and wounded his horse, which fell and rolled over. And as he slipped from the saddle, he was seized and made prisoner. Just then a horseman came, riding at full speed and whirling his sword up, cut down both the captors, and rescued Cao Cao. It was Cao Hong. Cao Cao said, "I am doomed, good brother. Go and save yourself." "My lord, mount my horse quickly. I will go afoot," said Cao Hong. "If those wretches come up, what then?" said Cao Cao. "The world can do without Cao Hong, but not without you, my lord." "If I live, I shall owe you my life," said Cao Cao. So he mounted. Cao Hong tore off his own breastplate, gripped his sword, and went on foot after the horse. Thus they proceeded till the 4th watch, when they saw before them a broad stream, and behind they still heard the shouts of pursuers drawing nearer and nearer. "This is my fate," said Cao Cao. "I am really doomed." Cao Hong helped Cao Cao down from his horse. Then, taking off his fighting robe and helmet, Cao Hong took the wounded man on his back and waded into the stream. When they reached the further side, the pursuers had already gained the bank, whence they shot arrows. Cao Cao, all wet, pushed on. Dawn was near. They went on another 10 miles, and then sat down to rest under a precipice. Suddenly, loud shouting was heard, and a party of horse appeared. It was Governor Zhu Rong, who had forded the river higher up. Just at this moment, Zhao Ho Dun and Zhao Ho Yuan, with several dozens men, came along. "Hurt not, my lord!" cried Zhao Ho Dun to Zhu Rong, who at once rushed at him. But the combat was short. Zhu Rong speedily fell under a spear thrust of Zhao Ho Dun, and his troops were driven off. Before long, Cao Cao's other generals arrived. Sadness and joy mingled in the greetings. They gathered together the few hundreds of soldiers left, and then returned to Luoyang. When the Confederate lords entered Luoyang, Sun Jian, after extinguishing the fires, camped within the walls, his own tent being set up near the dynastic temple. His people cleared away the debris and closed the rifted tombs. The gates were barred. On the site of the dynastic temple, he put up a mat shed containing 3 apartments, and here he begged the lords to meet and replace the sacred tablets with solemn sacrifices and prayers. This ceremony over, the others left and Sun Jian returned to his camp. That night, the stars and moon vied with each other in brightness. As Sun Jian sat in the open air, looking up at the heavens, he noticed a mist spreading over the stars of the constellation Draco. The Emperor's star is dulled, said Sun Jian with a sigh. No wonder a rebellious minister disturbs the state. The people sit in dust and ashes, and the capital is a waste. And his tears began to fall. Then a soldier, pointing to the south, said, "There is a beam of colored light rising from a well." Sun Jian bade his people light torches and descend into the well. Soon they brought up the corpse of a woman, not in the least decayed, although it had been there many days. She was dressed in palace clothing from her neck, hung an embroidered bag. Opening this, a red box was found with a golden lock, and when the box was opened, they saw a jade seal, square in shape, an inch each way. On it were delicately engraved 5 dragons intertwined. One corner had been broken off and repaired with gold. There were 8 characters in the seal style of engraving, which, interpreted, read, "I have received the command from heaven. May my time be always long and prosperous." Sun Jian showed this to his advisor, General Cheng Pu, who at once recognized it as the imperial hereditary seal of the emperor. Cheng Pu said, "This seal has a history. In olden days, Bian He saw a phoenix sitting on a certain stone at the foot of the Jing Mountains. He offered the stone at court. The king of Chu split open the stone and found a piece of jade. In the 26th year of Qing Dynasty, BC 221, a jade cutter made a seal from it, and Li Si, the first emperor's prime minister, engraved the characters. 2 years later, while the first emperor was sailing in the Dongting Lake, a terrific storm arrived. The emperor threw the seal to the water as a propitiatory offering, and the storm immediately ceased. 10 years later again, when the first emperor was making a progress and had reached Huaying, an old man by the roadside handed a seal to one of the attendants, saying, "This is now restored to the ancestral dragon," and had then disappeared. Thus the jewel returned to Qin. The next year, the first emperor died. Later, Ziying, the grandson of the first emperor, presented the seal to Liu Bang, the supreme ancestor, the founder of the Han dynasty. 200 years later, in Wang Mang's rebellion, the emperor's mother, Lady Yuan, struck 2 of the rebels, Wang Xun and Su Shan, with the seal and broke off a corner, which was repaired with gold. Liu Shu, the latter Han founder, got possession of it at Yuyong, and it has been regularly bequeathed hereafter. I heard this treasured seal had been lost during the trouble in the palace, when the 10 regular attendants hurried off the emperor. It was missed on his majesty's return. Now my lord has it, and certainly will come to the imperial dignity. But you must not remain here in the north. Quickly, go home. Changsha, south of the great river, where you can lay plans for the accomplishment of the great design. Your words exactly accord with my thoughts, said Sun Jian. Tomorrow I will make an excuse that I am unwell and get away. The soldiers were told to keep the discovery a secret, but one among them was a compatriot of the elected chief of the Confederacy, Yuan Shao. He thought this might be of great advantage to him, so he stole away out of the camp and betrayed his master. He went to Yuan Shao's camp, informed the secret, and received a liberal reward. Yuan Shao kept the informant in his own camp. Next morning, Sun Jian came to take leave, saying, "I am rather unwell and wish to return to Changsha." Yuan Shao laughed, saying, "I know what you are suffering from. It is called the Imperial Hereditary Seal." This was a shock to Sun Jian, and he paled but said, "Whence these words?" Yuan Shao said, "The armies were raised for the good of the state and to relieve it from oppression. The seal is state property, and since you have got hold of it, you should publicly hand it over to me as chief. When Dong Zhuo has been slain, it must go back to the government. What do you mean by concealing it and going away?" "How could the seal get into my hands?" said Sun Jian. "Where is the article out of the well?" "I have it not. Why harass me thus?" "Quickly produce it, or it will be the worst for you." Sun Jian, pointing toward the heavens as an oath, said, "If I have this jewel and am hiding it myself, may my end be unhappy and my death violent." The lords all said, "After an oath like this, we think he cannot have it." Then Yuan Shao called out his informant. "When you pulled that thing out of the well, was this man there?" asked he of Sun Jian. Sun Jian's anger burst forth, and he sprang forward to kill the man. Yuan Shao also drew his sword, saying, "You touched that soldier, and it is an insult to me." Behind Sun Jian, Generals Cheng Pu, Huang Gai, and Han Dang stepped forth. Behind Yuan Shao, Generals Yan Liang and Wen Shou were ready to act. In a moment, on all sides, swords flew from their scabbards, but the confusion was stayed by the efforts of the others, and Sun Jian left the assembly. Soon he broke up his camp and marched to his own place. Yuan Shao was not satisfied. He wrote to Jingzhou and sent the letter by a trusty hand to tell Imperial Protector Liu Biao to stop Sun Jian and take away the seal. Just after this came the news of the defeat and misfortune of Cao Cao, and when he was coming home, Yuan Shao sent out to welcome him and conduct him into camp. They also prepared a feast to console him. During the feast, Cao Cao said sadly, "My object was for the public good, and all you gentlemen nobly supported me. My plan was to get Yuan Shao with his Henei troops to approach Mingqing, and my force at Zhao to keep Chenggao, while the others of you to hold Xuanzhao, to close the passes of Huanyan and Daegu, and to take possession of the granaries, to control the points of vantage, and thus to secure the capital district. I planned for Yuan Shu and his Nanyang army to occupy the countries of Danxi and Zilin, and go into Wu Pass to help the three supports. All were to fortify their positions and not fight. Advantage lay in an uncertain military force, showing the Empire's possibilities of dealing with the rebellion. Victory would have been ours at once. But then came delays and doubts and inaction, and the confidence of the people was lost, and I am ashamed." No reply was possible, and the guests dispersed. Cao Cao saw that the others mistrusted him, and in his heart knew that nothing could be accomplished. So he led off his force to Yunzhou. Then Gong Sunzan said to Liu Bei, "This Yuan Shao is an incapable, and things will turn chaotic. We would better go too." So he broke camp and went north. At Pingyuan, he left Liu Bei in command and went to strengthen his own position and refresh his troops. The imperial protector of Yanzhou, Liu Dai, wished to borrow the grain of the governor of Dongjun, Qiao Mao. Being denied, Liu Dai attacked the camp, killed Qiao Mao, and took over all his army. Yuan Shao, seeing the confederacy breaking up, also marched away and went east. On the way home, Sun Jian was passing through Jingzhou. The imperial protector of Jingzhou, Liu Biao, was a scion of the imperial house and a native of Shenyang. As a young man, he had made friends with many famous persons, and he and his companions were called the 8 Wise Ones. The other 7 were Qin Xiang from Runan, Fan Pang from Runan, Kong Ye from Luting, Fan Kang from Bohai, Tan Fu from Shenyang, Zhang Jian from Shenyang, Qin Ji from Nanyang. Liu Biao was friends with all these. He had 3 famous persons who helped him in the government of his region. They were Kuai Liang and Kuai Yue from Yanping, and Kai Miao from Xianyang. When Yuan Shao's letter detailing the fault of Sun Jian arrived, Liu Biao ordered Kuai Yue and Kai Mao with 10,000 soldiers to bar the way. When Sun Jian drew near, the force was arranged in fighting order, and the leaders were in the front. "Why are you thus barring the road with armed troops?" asked Sun Jian. "Why do you, a servant of Han, secrete the Emperor's special seal? Leave it with me at once, and you go free," said Kuai Yue. Sun Jian angrily ordered out General Huang Gai. On the other side, Kai Mao rode forth with his sword set to strike. But after a few bouts, Huang Gai dealt Kai Mao a blow with the iron whip on the armor just over the heart. Kai Mao turned his steed and fled, and Sun Jian got through with a sudden rush. However, there arose the sound of gongs and drums on the hills behind, and there was Liu Biao, in person with a large army. Sun Jian rode straight up to him, and, bowing low, spoke, "Why did you, on the faith of a letter from Yuan Shao, try to coerce the chief of a neighboring region?" "You have concealed the state jewel, and I want you to restore it," was Liu Biao's reply. "If I have this thing, may I die a violent death." "If you want me to believe you, let me search your baggage." "What force have you that you dare come to flout me thus?" and only Liu Biao's prompt retirement prevented a battle. Sun Jian proceeded on his way, but from the rear of the second hill, an ambush suddenly discovered itself, and Kuai Yue and Kai Mao were still pursuing. Sun Jian seemed entirely hemmed in. What does a man to hold the state jewel for, if its possession led to strife? How Sun Jian got clear of the difficulty will presently be told.